Welcome everyone. This is our first online ethics and AI discussion regarding the applied mindset training that's coming up this Saturday. I'd like to introduce our speaker. We have Jen Shea. She is a mindset researcher at excel.ai. And we're going to go ahead and have her introduce herself, give a little background information, and then we'll go ahead and prompt the audience and carry on from there.
Great, thank you, Laura. I'm Jen Shea, as Laura said, and we're going to be talking about this really rich topic today. We've had a few discussions for ethics and AI with different subtopics to bring up, but this one specifically, since we have this training coming up on Saturday on mindset training for AI engineers and enthusiasts, we're going to be looking at how to apply the mindset training when talking about ethics and AI. So we're going to be asking the question, as it says here, how can mindset influence ethics in AI? And first I want to start out with, what does mindset actually mean? And then also ask the question on the other side of, what does ethics in AI really mean in artificial intelligence? So I would love to ask the participants what your initial impressions of this are before we dive into the material a little deeper. Does anyone want to share? Okay, so what does mindset really mean? According to the Arbinger Institute, who does a lot of work around outward mindset, which we'll get into in just a minute, mindset is the lens through which you see your work, your relationships, and your entire world. It's the foundation of all that you do, and more importantly, how you do it. So pulling away from behavior and thinking and how we interact with the world, underneath all of that is our mindset. And this is the core of how we create change in how we approach these things and how we approach our work in AI, both with how we interact with coworkers and how we interact with the users and the people that are being affected by the technology that we're creating and designing. So in my research, I've done a lot of looking into different ways of looking at mindset. And these are all words that are put onto something that there isn't really words for. So it's all sort of just a way of looking at it. So Carol Dweck is a major researcher in mindset, and she came up with the term growth mindset. She's done decades of research on this. And that stands in opposition to fixed mindset. So we have here in the slide, you can see on one side there's the mindsets that are recommended, and on the other side it's the ones that stand in opposition to them that are less recommended. But we all hold both, and that's okay. And we hold different mindsets when it comes to different things that we apply ourselves to. So you might think that you can learn a new coding language, but you can't learn a new instrument, that sort of thing. So coming back to growth mindset means that you believe that people's skills and abilities can be grown and aren't fixed. And then speaking of fixed mindset is where you think that people's talents and abilities are set and they can't change. And one of the biggest things that we'll see through this, which we're going to get to in a minute, is how we feel about mistakes and how we approach them. So with fixed mindset, making a mistake is like the worst thing that you can do because it means that you're bad and that you're not good at it. With growth mindset, making a mistake is actually helpful because it provides a new outlet to learn. And we'll look into the science of that in just a couple of slides. So coming on to outward mindset, which I mentioned is the Arbinger Institute, which was the first quote. That is looking out of yourself and thinking about how what you're doing is affecting everyone and not just you, where inward mindset is very much worried about your own success, how things are affecting you personally without really much thought as to how it's affecting anyone else but you. So it's putting others down to get ahead, which to me doesn't really work out for anyone. When everyone benefits, guess who benefits too? You do. And this has been shown in studies, as has growth mindset, to give and provide so much more opportunity for success than the opposite of fixed mindset and inward mindset. Some other researchers have done work into humility, and one of them is saying that humility is the new smart, where the old smart is looking good. And this all overlaps with the other research that people have done. And they're saying this because of our access to technology and information. Knowing a bunch of stuff doesn't really make you smart anymore. It's how you can interact with it. So skills like critical thinking, emotional intelligence, interpersonal interactions, these sorts of things are what are crucial in what they're calling the smart machine age. And then it all comes down also to effort and talent, which is something that's been coming up in my research again and again, where effort means just as much, if not more, than talent. And if you take talent on its own and you don't think that it can evolve into anything, then it doesn't really get you very far. So that's just an overview of some of the research that I've been doing with the mindset. And the mindset training is very much based off of this as a starting point. And in the workshop, we also go into learning how to learn and more on the neuroplasticity of the brain and how the brain works. We go into values on a personal level and on a societal level, and how we can interact with that when we're working with AI. And then we go into mindfulness as well. But for this presentation and this discussion, we're just going to focus on the mindset part. So I mentioned mistakes, right? So it's been proven scientifically that mistakes actually grow the brain. What is the connections in your brain? When you follow one neural path over and over and over again, it creates a solidified path in your brain. So this is saying getting correct work means no brain growth. So if you're practicing something that you already know, then it's not growing your brain at all. So when you make a mistake and you get something wrong, then the synapses fire in a different part of your brain, and that actually provides and for new connections to be made. But it's hard, right? It doesn't just grow from one time. You have to keep trying over and over and over again and developing these new connections. None of this stuff is easy. It's all very, very difficult. And like we said before with the effort, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of falling down and getting back up again. So just to kind of solidify this, one of the examples that I like to use is cross-country skiing. So when you're going cross-country skiing and you have one path, the first path is always the deepest. And that's your original neural connections, which are made in early childhood for a lot of things, and the first time you do things. And you often travel those over and over again. Then if you want to start trying to do something in a new way, traveling a new path, like if you're learning a language, your first language is English. If you're trying to adopt a different language, whether it's French or Chinese or German, or you're adopting a coding language, it's a different way of thinking about interpreting things in your brain. So it's taking a different neural path. And at first it's really hard, but then as you go over it and over and over it again, that can become a deeper path. Of course, you don't want to forget English to learn a coding language, which might not be the best example. But one other example is sort of applying to things in an aggressive way versus applying to things in a more mindful way. And if you're trying to reply and respond, respond is the word I'm looking for. If you're trying to respond to things in a more mindful way, it takes a lot of practice of doing it that way over and over again to build those connections in your brain instead of just your gut reaction of responding with aggression to things that are any way of setting, which comes up a lot. And where we need to build ethics around is using the mindfulness techniques. So we're going to ask some questions here that might pertain to engineers who code, and you often are faced with code reviews. So thinking about the mistakes, I'm sure that everyone has made mistakes in their coding. So how do you recover from mistakes in your coding in an ethical way? And then when you're giving and receiving feedback and reviews, how can you utilize these different forms of mindset, growth mindset versus fixed mindset, the outward mindset, and humility. Is anyone available to reflect on this? Laura, would you like to say a couple words?
Yes, of course, yeah. And we can also unmute one or two of the guests and see if they would like to add to the discussion. In general, from my background experience, I know that having a growth mindset is essential in engineering, especially during a code review in which you're constantly challenged to learn new material, to rewrite your code in a way that's cleaner and more efficient, and make it as well more readable for your fellow engineers. And then if you're doing work that involves data processing and analysis and data cleaning, you also have to make sure that you're really being mindful of how you're cleaning your data, making sure that it's actually prepared for the specific analysis that you're going to be doing, that you're taking into consideration who this data is representative of, respecting their privacy, and then also how you're going to be applying that, which algorithms you'll be using, and what's going to be affected and who's going to be affected by the outcomes of those algorithms as well. So I think that all of those things really require a growth mindset and a certain amount of humility when you're doing engineering. But let's go ahead and also check what some of our other guests. Demi, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you wouldn't mind saying a word or two about how you feel these specific mindsets might add to engineering, especially in AI.
So I think that, you know, especially with AI, I guess my thought is that things are more, how do I say it, like accelerated, or because AI is a fairly new field, sometimes you don't, my experience has been that sometimes code has been taken from other sources or other platforms, as at least for our company, as we try and put things together. So it's almost like we have these different puzzle pieces and we're trying to put the things together in a way that, and creating something new. And so I think that it's incredibly important to have humility and to have a growth mindset for our team, especially in this case.
Thank you very much, Demi. I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute. And let's see if Vamsi has something they would like to share.
Hi. I would agree with Laura and Demi. I would do the same. Like, I mean, if I would do the coding, especially like Demi said, this is the fairly new field, so we might be getting code from other sources. So I feel like you do mistakes. I mean, even though if it's not a fairly new field also, so even though if it's a well-established field, you do mistakes in your coding, and I do. I mean, I accept my mistakes, and when I get the feedback, I'll see the way I'll see is like, okay, how can I correct this mistake? How can I why I mean, in the first place, why did I took this path, and why did I did this mistake, and how can I recover it? So I mean, one thing I'll learn is, okay, so when I do mistakes, I'll see, okay, this is this one way we can fail, okay, or this is another way, this might be the right way to do some other coding or some other purpose, right? So yeah, I'll look into that way.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute now. And also, we want to encourage for our listeners, if you do want to add to the discussion at any point, feel free to just unmute yourself, but just stay muted while the presenter is speaking so we don't have any background noise. And thank you very much. You can go ahead, Jen.
Okay, thank you everyone for your input on this. Yeah, we don't really learn as much when we do things the right way as when we mess up. I think. And I think that because it's such a new field in artificial intelligence, there's a lot of opportunity to learn new ways of doing things that we wouldn't have thought of if we were just following the rules exactly as they were laid out, because we're laying new territory, we're making new paths. So I think that that's really important. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go into some other questions for most of the rest of the presentation that we can all engage with. So this one, especially with growth mindset, which we were talking about with the coding, but just a little bit more with exactly what growth mindset means and how that can affect coding and other interaction with how you're working with AI. Just to say a couple more words about growth mindset. Growth mindset, one of the things I like about it is it changes how you interact with other people's success. So with a growth mindset, you're inspired by other people's success and you're seeking out mentors and trying to learn from others and encouraging other people's success, which also has to do with the outward mindset. With a fixed mindset, you don't want other people to do better than you. So I just wanted to reflect on this a little bit if people want to share anything around the growth mindset specifically.
Yeah, I can definitely share a few words. So I know when I was first learning how to code, which is not something that I specifically went to the university to study, it was incredibly challenging. In a lot of ways, it is like learning a new regular language. I was fortunate enough to have enough background in mathematics from my degree, but it still took a lot of time and effort and a shift of mindset in order to challenge myself, to learn first how to do software engineering, but then also to transition into AI specifically. And also now having been in the tech industry for a couple years, it's incredible to see the rate of change as well in the industry, just with technology itself, with the advancement of languages, with different software packages that are available, even with just best practices that people use in the community and at different tech companies. So if you don't consistently keep this growth mindset throughout your career and continue learning and continue engaging and seeing what others are doing, in a lot of ways you're going to be left behind. So I think that this is an invaluable kind of tool to have in your back pocket so that you can continue to move forward and advance in your career. And then if any of our audience would like to add to that, I'll allow you to go ahead and unmute yourself as well. Vamsi, did you want to say something?
Yeah, having a growth mindset, how does it affect how we code, right? So, okay, so what I'll say is, okay, so if we do, so this AI is fairly new field, as we all know, and also if we just take out the code which we know already, which is working out there, and we just use that code and get the people always try to get the code which is already working out there, right? So we already we copy the code which is already working out there and try in our code and just modify a little things, and then we are done, we get the results, right? So if we have a growth mindset, if we need a growth mindset, so that if we get the code, I'll see it this way. So if you're doing copying the working code, you won't know the other possibilities of doing a code, right? So if you code on your own, or if you try in different ways, you might fail initially, but you will know the other possibilities out there to be successful, or in that case you will know, okay, these many scenarios might fail, and you might possibly come up with a new possibility where you can be successful. So that's how I see that.
Thank you, Fonsi, for sharing that with us. Demi, did you want to add something as well?
Yes, I mean, I just wanted to mention, I think that, especially if we're working on a team, given my background, which is working in a startup, it means that, our organization grows, or, sometimes we bring in consultants who have potentially more expertise. And so I think it's important to have a growth mindset, because it really helps everyone in that, when you have the growth mindset, you don't have to worry so much about, how do we as a team compare amongst each other. And I think that can be that's an issue in any organization, but especially in an organization that's constantly changing. It's very critical to have that. So I think that that's just something a bit more broad that I wanted to share.
Thank you very much, Demi. You can go ahead, Jen.
That was great. Thank you. And sorry, I'm just taking notes because that's how I learn and internalize information. Yes, I think that brings us a little bit to our next section, our next question on outward mindset, because with the outward mindset, they talk a lot about the ego. And I think, Demi, that was a little bit about what you're saying with organizations that are always changing, needing to not, have the growth mindset and be able to work together as a team, and bringing in consultants that have more experience, being able to listen to them and not be offended by that or anything. So the ego is definitely something that comes into play, that we need to think about. How do we, make room for it and let it be on the bus, but not let it drive, because you can't make it go away completely. But one of the quotes that I'll read real quick is from the Outward Mindset book is, at its heart, the problem is pretty simple. Incentive structures, company metrics, career goals, and personal egos all conspire to keep people focused on themselves and their own perspective, needs, and challenges, usually to the detriment of the team and the enterprise. In short, organizations and their people get inwardly focused, and as a result, they get stuck. So we're talking about the opposite of that, and coming into an outward mindset and thinking about how can we relate to each other as a team. And I wanted to ask about that and just kind of deepen our conversation into that aspect of it within AI. Okay, go.
Okay, I'll start. So I know that when working on an AI product with a team and working, trying to source different data sets, really trying to solve a problem, it's important that you really understand who your team is, what their backgrounds are. Oftentimes, especially in AI, teams come from very varied backgrounds. A lot of people come from mathematics, depending on the product that you're developing. Some people can specialize in hardware or robotics. Others could specialize in biology or be from the biomedical industry. So I think that having a kind of an open mind and an understanding of other strengths and weaknesses, and also what's important to them, what their values are, personally, but then also in completing the specific goal that you're trying to achieve together as a team. I think that in that way, having an outward mindset could, help that you're really thinking about how others potentially could collaborate and work together. And I think that overall will also really push forward your goal and will help you into actually making whatever you're trying to do come to life and help you to actually solve problems for others more efficiently. How about we get a new person? I see there's Shamika is joined us as well. Shamika, I'm going to unmute you. Would you mind adding your thoughts to this question?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning, so I'm not quite sure.
That's okay. So just from here, do you understand what an outward mindset is?
It kind of sounds like it's what, no, I don't know.
Jen, would you like to just repeat what an outward mindset is?
One other thing that I just that's an easy way to explain it. An outward mindset is treating people like people, where an inward mindset is treating people like objects.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So Shamika, how do you think having an outward mindset would affect how we interact with each other, even more specifically in the development of AI or an AI product, or working on a team that's doing artificial intelligence?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, not thinking of AI specifically, but if you're treating people as objects versus as people, there's that lack of empathy and understanding of people are multifaceted, and so you're not taking those things into account. So it's going to create issues. Yes, that's what I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to put you back on mute temporarily.
Okay.
Demi and Vamsi, would you be interested in adding to this specific question?
Yeah, sure. So when you say outward mindset, so treating people as persons, not as an objects, right? So yeah, in AI, I can think in AI we are all working with the machines, right? Every day we work with machines, we build machines, and we interact with machines. So I think we need to differ. I mean, we need to have a outward mindset, people and teammates as persons, not don't mix them with a. Okay, I'm just joking. Okay. Okay, so how does having this outward mindset affect how we interact? So if we have the outward mindset affects if you are in a team and you are trying to solve a problem to fix some code or to build something in an AI. So like Laura said, everyone will be the team which you work will be in different from different genres. Like there'll be scientists, there'll be coders, there'll be business people. So the one way I think is listen to them, get inputs, and think if you can make use of any of uh, any of the insights given by them. So that way, if you work as a team, that will improve a lot. I mean, that's what I do, because I mean, I don't I don't think each person will know everything in the world, right? So every person will know something. So if you listen to other people and treat them as your teammates, your friends and persons, so that you can learn something from them which you don't know. So that's one big important thing when you're working as a team, and especially in AI. So this as everyone is growing and researching and developing things in AI, so it's very much important to listen to the people and to learn what they're doing and learn from their experiences. So that's one thing I would keep in mind.
Thank you very much, Vamsi. And how about Demi? Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I really agree on what Vamsi said. I think that like it really resonates with me a lot, especially in the field that I'm in, which is ed tech, education technology. I think the issue with a lot of tech products can be that they tend to focus a lot on the students and almost bypass the teacher. And it almost, not all products, but it reduces the importance of the teacher, because it's kind of like saying, hey, you can do this instead of that. And I think that it creates a lot of friction in this field. And so I guess going back to the question, which is how does having that one mindset affect how we interact with each other in AI? I think the AI, in a sense, is a very powerful tool to reduce the amount of tasks that we do that are monotonous, or to do things like diagnose problems with a higher level of accuracy. And so I think that those are all really great solutions. But in the process, when we're designing these products or these solutions, it's important to give more agency to the end user so that they feel like they're empowered, because otherwise I think that there is a lot of fear about how robots are overtaking our lives and etc. And so I think that having this more outward mindset approach is especially important to growing a business.
Thank you very much, Demi. You can go ahead and move on, Jen.
Great, thank you all for your responses. I think that you guys all have really good points to make in terms of outward mindset. I like that empathy was brought up. That's a huge thing. And things that working with a team, and also how we're affecting the users. And hold on, I wanted to. Oh, and the other thing that kept coming up was listening. And that is a huge thing with outward mindset, is listening more than telling, especially with leaders and teachers, is being open to hearing what other people have to say, because even if they're students or if they're just starting to understand things, or you don't think that they know as much as you, they always have something to teach you. So I really appreciate your comments on all of that. Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the humility part, and I'm getting a lot of this from this book by Edward D. Hess and Catherine Ludwig called Humility is the New Smart, Rethinking Human Excellence in the Smart Machine Age. And they did a ton of research on this, and how there's different skills that we need to develop as humans in the smart machine age, when the AI and the machines are doing a lot of the jobs that we used to do. We need to develop the skills that are the human side of skills. So a lot of that is, as I said earlier, the critical thinking, emotional skills. Let me find where it is that I wanted to. It's in my other slideshow. Yes, but so critical thinking, innovation, creativity, and the interpersonal relationships and relationship building is huge in the smart machine age. All the things that machines can't do, and the empathy and caring for each other. And machines can't do this yet. When machines learn empathy, then who knows what that's going to be. But, I think that we need to let the machines be machines and let the humans be humans. But having this sense of humility, which reflects the outward mindset and the growth mindset, can really bring us closer to each other and remain connected in this age where it can really get very disconnected. So I'd love to hear some of your input on this.
Yeah, definitely. I'll start. So I think as machines are getting smarter, And also, as technology becomes more and more pervasive in our lives, I think it is easy to become very disconnected, especially for young people who are consistently using cell phones or are spending a lot of time on Facebook. They really consider their community and their friends group to be located within these forms of technology, and oftentimes it's easy to lose sight of how valuable human connection really can be and really is. And I think because of the way technology is advancing, it's often really hard to see what is valuable connection, right? We get likes on Facebook, and it gives us that kind of euphoria feeling, and we get those endorphins and norepinephrine rush that makes us really enjoy that and makes us want to continue posting online, which is great for the company and the advertisers that are taking in all of our information, all of our data, and then creating recommendation systems based on our likes and dislikes. But that doesn't necessarily help us as individuals actually have a meaningful connection, and it also really doesn't give a good view of who we are as humans, right? Most of the time, the things that we're sharing, especially on social media, are a very selective view of who we are as individuals. It's our kind of highlight reel that people want to present themselves as, right? All the great accomplishments that we achieve and all of our exciting moments. And very rarely do we as humans share kind of the sad things or what makes us angry. And those that do share those things on social media are often thought of as like complainers or people that you don't necessarily want to associate with. So I think that technology in a way has removed a lot of that human element. And at this point, I think in order for us to really kind of continue in the smart machine age and to become wiser than the smart machines, based on our own human instinct, we have to maintain those connections with each other as human beings and realize that all of that stuff serves a purpose and is great for marketing and is great for business in that way, but also it's not necessarily reality. And in order for us to continue growing and learning, we have to be humble and we have to understand and be willing to break down our own egos and be willing just to be vulnerable sometimes in front of each other, face to face, when others can really connect with us. Yeah. Would someone else like to share what they feel?
Yeah, sure. How does embracing humility instead of appearing smart benefits us in the smart machine age? Yeah, I feel that embracing humility sometimes it is needed, right? I mean, it happens to every human being. Uh, this humility, embracing humility, happens to everyone. So I feel that instead of taking this in a negative way, think positive. Some of the examples happen in my life is like, okay, um, if I'm passionate about any field like data science and artificial intelligence and some of when I discuss this with my any of my friends, they say, hey, it's so difficult field, uh, and you will not be able to go into that field and succeed in that field. uh, that happens, and I think, oh, okay, so it looks like many people are thinking it's so difficult, and why not try? So I do, I take that, I won't see that they are humiliating me. I'll see that, okay, many people are thinking that we will not be able to succeed in that particular field or whatever we discuss with them. So I'll give it a try. I'll try my best to see if I can succeed. And then when I share with them, like I say, hey, see, we can do this. Okay, there is nothing impossible. We can do this. So in that way, sometimes, yeah, embracing humility is needed. That makes you. I mean, I personally feel that makes me try new things, or try what people think might be impossible.
Thank you, Vamsi. Anyone else? Demi or Shmika, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I do want to add to that. So I think like the benefit of embracing humility in general in any context is that I think that the more you embrace humility, the more you're able to be more observant of others around you. And it's also recognizing your own bias, which is incredibly important to building product. Especially, for example, if you think about us, being in Silicon Valley, etc., we already fall into a certain profile of people who love to live in cities, who embrace technology, et cetera, et cetera. But we're not designing product for just ourselves. We're really designing product to reach, ideally, as many people as we can, or to be more relevant to more people. And so I think a part of humility gives us the opportunity to look at our own biases and to really question, is this something that, is just something that our team feels, or, is this something that really like our customers really believe in? And I think another part of that is recognizing that, there are, for us, we think a lot about, the certain groups who may be left out. So the inequality or of what we could be creating. And so that's something that is, very top of mind to us.
Thank you very much, Demi. How about Shmika? What do you think about that? How do you think about humility and how it may affect us in this smart machine age?
What I was thinking of is kind of when you say smart machine age, I kind of think of this idea of attaining to perfection. And so I think the humility is like being able to admit our faults, and like that creates empathy and connection with people when people understand that like we're human, I guess, and that there are faults. And so I think that's part of why humility is necessary, because not everyone is perfect, and what we do in the smart age is kind of just putting out the perfection idea, and it's not realistic and attainable, or it's not realistic and attainable. And also there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes for that. And so being able to acknowledge what happens behind the scenes and acknowledge the faults is kind of what creates more connection between people, and it just helps foster a better, understanding and so forth. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead, Jen.
Great. Yeah, those were all really great reflections, guys. Trying new things. Talking about perfection is a huge thing that I've been coming across in my research. Another thing that relates to this is imposter syndrome, which I think we all face, but it's not necessarily a sign that you're bad. It's actually worse to have the opposite and think that you're good at everything. Does everyone know what imposter syndrome is? I can explain it a little bit. It's where you feel like an imposter in your own life, and like someone's about to call you out as a fraud, and that you don't really know what you're talking about. You don't deserve anything you've achieved. And a lot of this, these feelings come up for people that have achieved a level of excellence or expert in their own field, and come a long way, because I think we've come from a really, we've come a long way from where we started. So that's what often gives you imposter syndrome, and then getting a lot of critique along the way and being able to overcome that. But there's times where it feels really dark. So I think the best way we can do this is having humility around it and coming together and talking about it and engaging with that voice within yourself. A lot of what I'm seeing is also that sort of thing, like giving that voice, that like fixed mindset voice that we all have, a name or something, or separating yourself from it. Like I call mine Jenny because I don't like being called Jenny. My name is Jen. And whenever that voice comes up, that whiny little voice, it's like, I can't do it. You don't know what you're doing. I'm like, okay, Jenny, thank you. And move along. So anyway, just side note on imposter syndrome. Okay, so I wanted to tell you guys about this. If you don't know, and you're in the Bay Area, this Saturday, there's a longer version of this, which is a full 4-hour training on mindset for AI engineers and enthusiasts. And most of this we've gone into in this little discussion has been around growth mindset and different forms of mindset. But as I said earlier, we're also going to be getting into learning how to learn, talking about Barbara Oakley and her work around learning how to learn, but also around the neuroscience of neuroplasticity and how the brain actually learns and develops, which we did touch on a little bit. And then in the second half, getting into values and mindfulness. Values, talking about going through different ways that we can determine what our values are and what our purpose is in life and how we view ourselves in the world. And then also looking at how some of AI is affecting and looking honestly at the social implications of AI and what it's doing in affecting underrepresented and underprivileged groups that don't necessarily have a voice in how these things are being designed, and how we can be engaging with that and thinking about that when developing the technology so that that doesn't get left out. And then on mindfulness and the studies that have been done on mindfulness and how it can actually grow parts of your brain that promote the types of mindset that we've been talking about, and quiet the types that are like that lizard brain that's shouting at you, my Jenny lizard brain personally. And we do some meditation with that also within the workshop. And it's full of exercises and interactive activities where we break up into groups, we get up and we do things. There's worksheets, there's all sorts of scientific things. It's going to be really fun. And I just would like to give you guys this code for it. If you want to go to the site and type it in, I'm going to go back to that, but I just wanted to let you guys see some of the testimonials, which is uncomfortable for me to be promoting myself in this way, but these are some of the comments that I've gotten as feedback from the workshops I've done in the past. And then we can make the code available to you guys for the workshop on Saturday if you're available. There will also be one in March to look forward to if you can't make it this Saturday. But yeah, if there's any closing comments or questions for me personally, this is making me uncomfortable, so I'm going to leave it on this one. So you can go to this site and put in the 50% off code for ethics and AI that you get for joining this. So I want to just open it up to other questions that you want to engage with me or with each other related to this.
Well, first, thank you very much, Jen, for talking about the research that you've been doing and how you've been excited and preparing to share it with others for your upcoming workshop. I can tell that this is something you're seriously passionate about and that you really want to help others and kind of share this information that you've discovered. So thank you again for that. Something that I'm really curious about you personally is how do you think that shifting mindset could actually benefit the development of artificial intelligence ethically in the long term? How do you feel that doing this kind of work could actually help AI in the future?
Thank you for that question. That's a good one. I guess I should ask it of myself and not just myself and not just everyone else. I'm coming from a background of alternative medicine and anthropology and social change, and I did my thesis all about care. And care in the sense for care for everyone and everything, pulling away from me against the world and us versus them mentalities. And what I see in AI, because it is moving at such an exponential rate of growth, that there might be an opportunity here, or several opportunities, to go in and shift the way that we're behaving and interacting in this world through looking at mindset. And we're getting to a point where the engineers that are designing it are making a lot of the decisions. So I feel like by getting to the decision makers and really giving them these well-researched skills and techniques and insight, I feel like I can really find my niche to make some significant change in the world for the better. So that's kind of how I feel about it. And I think that bringing the soft sciences to this world of very hard science, where it's very, very, not to use the word cold, because I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's just, it needs some warmth, I feel like. And as an empath and as someone that's very involved in the other side of science, I want to bring that into the conversation. I guess that's a little bit of a nutshell, a little piece of one. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. How about the rest of the attendees? Do you have any specific questions for Jen?
Yeah. Thank you, Jen and Lara, to organize and share the thoughts. And thanks to everyone else in the who participated in the meeting and shared their thoughts. So one question I have is, like, we know this AI is you said, it's growing exponentially, and we can't even imagine where we're going. Like, we're building self-driving cars, and we're doing many other things which might help humankind, and some might break in one of our discussions, so they might put the humans out of jobs. All that can happen, right? So in these scenarios, I mean, growing when AI is growing this much big, so what do you think are the right ethics to follow in order to make humans better? I mean, to live better in this AI world?
That's a good question. And one of the questions that comes up around ethics in AI is, whose ethics, whose values get built into it? Because we all have very different ideas of what ethics means, and it's not something that's set in stone or agreed upon. I mean, depending on who you ask and where they're from and what their background is and what their belief systems and everything is, it could be a very different thing. So I personally don't want to prescribe what ethics means to people, but I want them to look inside of themselves and inside of their organizations and out at the world and do the research that's there and reflect on how can we be considerate? How can we be in a listening mode and be building it so that it does really reflect the populations that it's affecting, and what different groups' needs are, because not everyone needs the same thing. And if we're trying to create something that meets everyone's needs, then it needs to be something that's as diverse as the people are. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about Demi or Shmika? Do you have any questions for Jen?
Yes, actually. Jen, you may have answered it just then. And my question is really, in your research, what do you see is the, I want to say, the danger or the thing that we should be looking out for the most? What are the few things? or there may not be just a few things.
Thank you. Yeah. I think it gets really inflated by Hollywood's projection of, evil robots and all these systems. Has anyone seen the show Black Mirror? There's all these examples of malicious AI systems that go terribly wrong. But I think the biggest thing that we have to worry about is increasing inequality, because that's the way that it's going right now. That's the direction that the technology is going, is in increasing inequality and putting a bigger gap between those at the top and then everybody else. So that's something that we really need to be considering, is giving voice to the voiceless, and not just having a few people make decisions that affect everyone else. So I think that that's the biggest concern for me. And everyone will have their own version of that. But I hate to say it this way, but I've heard mostly from white men this idea of like AI apocalypse. And I'm like, yeah, but actually on the streets right now, we need to make sure that the people of color feel safe walking around, because of AI systems, their neighborhoods are getting policed a lot more, and things like that, that are really troubling, and how AI is interpreting a bias and discrimination. Like there was some research done that showed that, women were shown, like they put in nurse and it came up woman. I think it was a translation app or technology. Women were coming up nurses and men were coming up doctors, things like that, where it's something that comes from our culture. It's our cultural history. If it's learning from us, we're biased. And if it's learning from the people that are in the Western world, that are in the ruling class, that is extremely biased and not really considering other people. So I think that that's the biggest thing for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shamika, did you have any questions for Jen as well?
No, I don't have any questions. I'm going to the mindset training, so I'm really excited about that. So
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to see the parts that you missed, this will be recorded and we can send it out. We're going to be doing that of this presentation.
Okay, so thank you very much, Jen, for covering this presentation, and thank you to everyone who joined us. As Jen just said, we have been recording this session. We're going to send it out to all those who registered for the discussion today, in case they might not have been able to make it. They had a meeting come up last minute, so we want to make sure they have an opportunity to listen and then also potentially join us on Saturday. Additionally, through our AI and deep learning enthusiasts meetup, we also try to host study sessions, workshops, trainings, specifically on applied AI engineering. We've had a few in the past that focused on demystifying AI, in which we run parallel sessions, intro and advanced, and where we give people the opportunity to really just get their hands dirty, setting up their computing environment, making sure they understand the basics of Python, scikit-learn, TensorFlow, the general concepts around machine learning and deep learning, and then how to start thinking about how to apply that to different products, or if they want to develop their own company based off of these tools. We also try to invite in speakers that can come and talk and share the work that they're doing and the research that they're doing in the industry to provide inspiration and also provide an opportunity for people to interface with them and learn more if they want to learn more. On top of that, we also do some different kinds of outreach with different underrepresented groups in tech. We just started a Latinx and AI coalition, which we had a town hall meeting last night. And we're going to be doing other similar events like that that are supposed to be very representative of specific groups, and providing a safe space for them to come and share their work and their views and how they think AI might affect their communities as well going forward. So we do encourage you to continue getting involved and really making this group what you want it to be going forward in the future. So if you would like to have a study session on a specific topic, or if you would like to talk about a research paper or even code up a small project with someone else within the meetup, we would love to see that. We have around 3,000 members now, which is amazing. So we definitely want to foster collaboration and cross communication through everyone. So if you'd like to kind of spur any other type of event, please just reach out to us. You can always contact us at info@excel.ai. And if it's specifically regarding our workshops, you can reach us at workshops@excel.ai. So thank you everyone again for joining us, and we'll be sending out copies of this recording with you.
Thank you so much, Laura and Jen, for organizing this really, really great chat session. I'll definitely be reaching out to you. We actually also hosted an AI and education panel that was really so oversubscribed, and I think it really just goes to show how topical this issue is. And so thank you so much for organizing this.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I think that this is a topic that we can't talk about enough, especially with the education. So thank you everyone for all of the work that you're doing out there, and feel free to spread these ideas and talk to your friends about it. That's your homework, actually.
Okay, and we'll be signing off.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your day.